Hello, disruptors and viewers from around the globe. We are so happy that you have tuned into Mindset Mastery Moments with Dr.Alisa White, your number one mindset disruptor. You are tuned into a podcast that is a top 1% podcast where we aim to help you shift from limiting belief to success in your life, your business, relationships, and your career. Tune in as we help you unlock the mindset that is key to your success. Hello, disruptors. Welcome to another exciting and thrilling episode of Mindset Mastery Moments with yours truly, Dr.Alisa White. And today, I am so excited because I am not coming by myself. I am bringing the incomparable team of Mindset Mastery 360. Yes, I said it, Mindset Mastery 360, the global movement. This weekend, we hosted a live virtual summit that was in the form of rapid fire panel discussion. And we called our virtual summit Empowering Her Rise with the theme of navigating the future of feminine leadership. You see, this summit was a global conversion of inspiring minds to empower the rise of women all across the globe. And yes, it was brought to you by yours truly and our dynamic team at Mindset Mastery 360. This virtual summit was in honor of Women's History Month 2024, and it aimed to ignite a discussion that transcends beyond borders, exploring and involving the role of women in diverse spheres. From dissecting the impact of media on feminine leadership to fostering sisterhood and closing gender gaps, the summit came with the vision to be transformative in a dialogue about male and female thought leaders from around the globe for a more inclusive and empowered future for all of us. And so those wonderful thought leaders are all members and leaders of Mindset Mastery 360 Global Movement. Yes, we did trending topics like tech and beyond, unveiling the untapped potential of women in non-traditional career paths, to unmasking media, analyzing the precautions of sexualized images on future leaders, and the essence of leadership. Can a woman lead authentically in feminine, or does she need to balance with the masculine traits to really be a powerhouse leader? Or we also talked about building sisterhood, healing competitive nuances among women for a stronger collective force. Yes, we went in on it. And then bridging the gap, strategies to achieve equality between male and female counterparts. And then we also dived into true desires. We explored what do women truly want versus societal expectations. So today, I want you to buckle up your seatbelt, get your beverage, or if you're driving, just cruise with some dynamic, empowering conversation from our global thought leaders of Mindset Mastery 360. Yes, it was just not me, and I'm so excited and honored that my co-hosts, Dr. Kareem R. Ellis and Deborah Halt, were with me in moderating and hosting the conversation with our global thought leaders. I want you to take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back with the highlights. Today, we've got an exciting lineup for you, and we are about to take off with one very special guest. Today, we have a keynote address before we get into the conversation by an outstanding individual. At Mindset Mastery 360, he takes the position as being our co-founder. But that's just the role he serves in this community and in this movement. We are talking about an individual who has traveled all over the world, speaking in boardrooms, speaking in live audiences, speaking to individuals, coaching, training, being a father, being a brother, being a friend, and being a man that uplifts, respects, and cherishes women. Today, we are talking about Dr. Kareem R. Ellis. He is the number one breakthrough strategist. He's a global thought leader. He is also a 2 times TEDx speaker. He is the creator of the GPS Speakers Academy, and the coach and master trainer. He is also the international best-selling author of the blockbuster-selling book called GPS, My Success. He has also been serving all across the globe as a servant leader on multiple boards with many organizations, reaching everyone with his message that God has given him. But most importantly, he's here to serve us with a powerful message as we raise women up today. How fast are you designed to go? Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a virtual round of applause for Dr. Kareem R. Ellis. Dr. Kareem, over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Alisa White. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Let me just check the sound real quick to make sure, because technology be doing this technology thing. Sometimes we want to act up, and I appreciate that introduction. You got me listening like, who? I want to meet that guy. That guy sounds very engaging and inspiring. I need to meet that gentleman somewhere out there in the world, right? So today I want to talk to you real briefly about this particular concept that I think is going to fit nicely into the ebb and flow of why we're all gathered here today as we celebrate the greatness that is called womanhood, right? I want to ask you, just how fast are you designed to go? How fast are you designed to go? It's no shock or surprise for folks that know me. They know that I'm a self-enthused Porsche fanatic. I'm talking about the sports car. And that started back in the 80s, guys. I'm an 80s baby. I'm diehard. I'm self-proclaimed. I think the 80s was one of the greatest generations ever to come forward on the planet Earth. You realize you don't have a lot of issues out of 80s kids, right? We are built tough. We are built to go the distance. Now, in 1984, there was something that happened when I was around the age of 7 that transformed my mind very radically. There was a cartoon that came on the air called Transformers. And some of y'all are still old enough but young enough to remember it. It gave us one of the greatest cartoon heroes of all times. As you can see, my man Optimus Prime. It gave us one of the greatest villains of all time, my man Megatron. And throughout this cartoon series, there was one cartoon character that stole the show for me personally. It was a robot by the name of Jazz. Now, as you can see, I got a small version of him. And the reason why I'm using this small version is because I believe big things usually come in small seed. Somebody's going to catch that a little bit later. Big things usually come in small seed. But at the age of 7, when I saw this toy and I saw that he transformed into a Porsche, I became a Porsche enthusiast. All my life, I kept saying, I want to have a Porsche, I want to have a Porsche, I want to have a Porsche. And it's by God's grace and humor that I've been blessed to work on Porsche number 4 right now. So we're not going to complain about that. But one of the things I love so much about owning this particular type of car is, of course, it's got to be a convertible, right? You can't have a Porsche and it not be a convertible. So for me personally, I love driving around the city with the top down, music cranked up, blasting. Come on, got to put my shades on because I got to look good while I'm doing this, right? And I'm driving around the city taking care of business. Now, on this one particular day, I was out running errands. I had one last errand to finish up. I had to go to my local post office and mail some stuff out. So I remember driving. It was about a good 70-degree day. There was no clouds in the sky. Everything was perfect. As I'm pulling into the parking lot of my local post office, I noticed 3 kids wandering through. Kids had to be around 7, 8, 9 years old. Couldn't have been really, really old, right? I remember parking the car to make sure I didn't hit the kids. I got out the car. I ran inside. I went to go mail some stuff and check out my P.O. box. And by the time I came out 10 minutes later, those 3 kids were now gathered around my sports car. And as I hit my alarm from a distance to let them know I'm about to get in the car, the youngest of the 3 stopped me and said, "Excuse me, sir, is this your car?" I said, "It is." He said, "I love it. It's beautiful." I said, "You got good taste. I like you, young man." He said, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "What's the question?" He said, "How fast?" And I paused for a second. Let me be clear with you. In life, the quality of the questions you ask will determine the quality of your results. I'm going to say that again. The quality of the questions you ask will determine the quality of the results. See, for some folks right now, the reason why you're not hitting that next level of success, because you're going through life asking all the wrong questions. So we want to be very, very clear and precise about what we ask in this day and age, right? And so I paused for a second. I want to reflect on what he said to me. And so I paired it back to him. You asked how fast. Are you asking how fast the car can go? Or are you asking how fast I've driven the car? Because depending on what you ask you're going to get a different answer. The young boy stopped for a second and looked at his peers and then looked back at me. And he said, well, I guess both. How fast does the car go and how fast have you driven it? Now, with a smile on my face, I said, well, young man, the fastest I've driven this car is 140 miles per hour. And no sooner did I tell them that they mouths dropped wide open like, oh my God, 140 miles per hour. And unbeknownst to me, a lady pulled into the parking lot in a minivan. She had gotten out and was eavesdropping on our conversation. I didn't even realize she was there. And out of nowhere, when I told them 140 miles per hour, the young lady exploded on me. Anger in her voice. Why would you tell these kids something so stupid and so reckless? Why would you tell these kids that it is okay to drive 140 miles per hour? Do you understand how many people you could have put at risk by driving that fast and driving that recklessly? And before I could answer her, she turned around and walked off. Went inside the post office. There was that moment of awkward silence as you can possibly imagine. I mean, you could cut the air with a knife as I'm looking at the kids and the kids is looking at me. And I thought, let me get back to the original conversation. So yes, I drove the vehicle 140 miles per hour. It was late on a Wednesday night. I had a keynote speech in the state of Indiana, and around 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, driving back to Cincinnati with no one on the highway, I picked up to 140 miles per hour. So of course I would never put anybody's life in danger, but I did it under the guise and cusp of safety. But to answer your other question, this car can hit speeds in excess of 75 miles per hour. With that, the kid gave me a high five. They turned around and walked out the parking lot. I got ahead and got inside my car. I got my keys ready to start the ignition. And I paused for a second because I ain't like how she talked to me. So I was going to hang out for a few minutes to give her a taste of my mind. But common sense sat down in the seat and said, Doc, you got to let her go. And so I start up the car, I pull out of the parking lot, I make a sharp right, and before you know it, 30 seconds later, I'm sitting at the stoplight. And I'm pondering everything that literally just took place with that lady. And I kept asking myself, would her response to me be different if she hung around long enough to understand why I actually drove that car at 140 miles per hour? See, one of the things I've learned is this. I live in Cincinnati, Ohio. And in Cincinnati, Ohio, the streets that surround where I stay at are chock full of 25 and 35 mile per hour streets. No matter where I go, it's either 25 miles per hour or 35 miles per hour. So every once in a blue moon, I got to jump inside this Porsche, find an open stretch of road, and crank that baby up as fast as I can go. Why? To remind myself what the car is designed to do. The car wasn't designed to go 25 miles per hour. The car wasn't designed to go 35 miles per hour. The car was designed to hit speeds in excess of 175. And if I'm not careful, I can be so used to driving on 25 mile per hour streets and 35 mile per hour streets, I'll forget what the car is designed to do. So that brings me to the cusp of the question. Just how fast are you designed to go? See, I see a lot of people that hang around people in their world, in their atmosphere, that are used to driving 25 miles per hour. They're used to going 35 miles per hour. And the more you hang around these types of people, you'll forget not how fast you can go, you'll forget how fast you're designed to go. So what I want to do is I want to give you 3 ways in this season you can pick up speed and go faster. And 2024 is the year of more, is what I've deemed this. 2024, the year of more. Number 1, you got to know the vehicle that you're in. Like with my Porsches, S's on the end, meaning more than one, I'm familiar with the schematics. I'm familiar with the gas mileage. I'm familiar with everything about those vehicles. Incidentally, my cars are stick shifts. So that way people can't ask to borrow my car because you got to know how to drive that forbidden stick shift, right? Yeah, but I know everything about the vehicle. Why? Because if I want to be a skilled driver, I got to know the vehicle. So here's the question. If the analogy of the vehicle equals you, that means you are the vehicle, you are the car, right? Wherever that car represents to you, how well do you know the vehicle? One of the reasons why I picked up speed, because I know my gift, I know my talent, I know my education, I know the right environment I'm supposed to be in. Like, I know so much about the vehicle known as Dr. Kareem Ray Ellis, it's damn near impossible for me not to pick up speed because I know my vehicle in and out. I know what fuel it takes. I know when the oil change is due. I know when the tune-ups are ready. I know everything about the car. Why? The more I know about the vehicle, the better I become as a driver. So number one, I got to know the vehicle. Number two, I got to be able to test drive that vehicle under different conditions. Now this is a side note because I don't know how many Porsche enthusiasts we got on here, but the one thing I can say about Porsche, the one thing I can say about Lamborghini, the one thing I can say about Ferrari and any other deemed quote unquote supercar or sports car, you don't see commercials advertising those cars on regular TV. So I can turn the TV on right now, I can see a Ford commercial. I can see a Honda commercial. I can see a Toyota commercial. All the organizations I've ever spoken for, right? But the issue is, since there's no commercials really to promote a Porsche, Porsches get sold based on perceived value. Side note, what's your perceived value in this season, right? The higher your perceived value, the more valuable you come across to the world. That's just a side note. That's not a teachable. That's just me throwing something out there in real time, right? When I say test drive the vehicle under different conditions, Porsche is all about promoting excellency. So before they put that vehicle on the assembly line to put it together and put it out there in the showplace on the marketplace to sell those vehicles, one of the things they do with that car is they take that car and they test it under different conditions. So they'll rev that Porsche up to 100 miles per hour in snow and ice to see how it handles. They'll rev that Porsche up to 100 miles per hour under rain and fog to see how it handles. They'll rev that Porsche up to 100 miles per hour on rock and gravel to see how it handles. And the reason being is they want to test drive the vehicle to make sure it handles properly before the vehicle is put out on the market for people to invest in it. If you want to pick up speed in this season, one of the things you absolutely have to do is be able to drive your vehicle under different conditions, right? I remember a few years back, we came through COVID, and we know that COVID back in 2020 changed the landscape of the entire globe. It wasn't just cities that was affected. It wasn't just states that was affected, because I know we got people on this thing today that's global. The whole world was affected by COVID global shutdowns, right? But what I realized is people who knew how to pick up steam in that down spike were individuals that knew how to drive and maintain their vehicle. Why? They're used to test driving their gift, their talent, their education, their expertise in different types of terrain. So number two, if I want to go faster in this season, I got to be able to test drive my vehicle under different conditions. It's not always going to be sunny outside. It's not always going to be bright outside. And then last but not least, I want to encourage you to make sure that you're on the right racetrack. Now, I know we got some folks under the sound of my voice that are NASCAR fans, right? I'm talking NASCAR racetrack. Now, again, I'm not the biggest NASCAR fan, but from the NASCAR events that I have watched, one thing that has always stood out, the cars on the racetrack all kind of look the same. Don't get me wrong, the colors may be different. They may have different investor logos and advertising on there, but far and wide, the make and model of the cars pretty much all fit under a certain level of dynamics. I mean, facts about it. If you were to go to a NASCAR race and look out there before they say on your mark, get set, go, start your engine, and you look out and notice there's a semi-truck on the semi-truck trailer on the racetrack. There's a motorcycle on the racetrack. There's a dune buggy on the racetrack. You would scratch your head and think something is wrong because you got a mixture of different vehicles that don't make sense on the racetrack. Yeah, why am I telling this to you? Because for a lot of us, we don't look to our right, look to our left, look in front of us, look behind us to see who's actually on the same racetrack as us in this season. As a speaker, I currently start my fee out at $20,000 for an hour speaking engagement. So I want to measure my success. I want to make sure I'm on the racetrack with people that's in league, in line with what I'm doing right now. The problem with most of us, we don't care about who's on the racetrack, and so we find ourselves selling ourselves short. Why? Because you can only better your best when you're hanging around like-minded people. As Jim Rohn said, your life will measure that of the 5 people you hang with the most, right? Before I bring this thing to a close, let's do a quick recap. Number one, I encourage you to know the vehicle that you're in this season. It's your job to know that vehicle intimately in and out. Know your strengths, know your weaknesses. Number two, learn how to master driving the vehicle called you under a multitude of different conditions. Because Murphy's Law says that which can go wrong will go wrong at the one inopportune moment in time. And when it does, I don't want you to have to pull off to the side because you can't handle the terrain, right? And then last but not least, I want you to do a check on a regular basis and see who's on the racetrack with you. Why? Because the people on the racetrack are designed to help you pull out your measure of greatness. And you're only able to do that when you're surrounded by the right drivers. Guys, if you take everything that I've given to you and you apply it this year, don't wait till next month, don't wait till 2 months down the road, apply it this year, you should have no problem putting the keys and starting the ignition and driving much faster. My name is Dr. Kareem Ellis. They call me the #1 breakthrough strategist. On that note, I'm going to pass the microphone back to Dr. Alisa. It's all you.
We will jump into this first question, which we will have the panelists raise their virtual hands so we know which one of them is going to answer first. I'll let you know. The first question is, what are the main barriers to gender equality in the workplace, and how can they really be addressed? Give it to us, Dr. Slava. And the question for those who are listening, what are the main barriers to gender equality in the workplace, and how can they be addressed?
So I come from a whole different culture and background as far as the definition of being feminine. And if you look at the classic definition of being feminine is basically having the qualities or the appearance traditionally associated with women or girls. So that defines what we call the gender. So I employ about 30 team members. 3 of the 30 are males and the rest is females. But that's the nature of dentistry. Dentistry really attracts the females because we do have the characteristics and to care for people. I'm not saying men don't care for people, but I stumbled on this article that went through with 93 women from Eastern and Western Europe and asked them what would be the traditional or the egalitarian definition of gender role and the belief of gender role. And all of them unanimously agreed that there are certain characteristics with women, Eastern European, the traditional one, and Western European, which is more libertarian, that really helps us take care of people. And that's why, going back to dentistry attracts mostly females because we do have the sense of patience. We do have the sense of compassion. We do have the sense of empathy. We do have qualities that will take care of people. And that's why we are most through history, we are the caregiver of our children because we have these emotions that we can channel in order to produce care for the people that, dependent on us. So to answer your question, when I hire, I have a male who was a Marine for 8 years. I have another male who was an oral surgeon assistant for like 10 years. And then, of course, my husband, who's a co-CEO, comes from the semiconductor industry. So these are the 3 guys out of 30 women that ranges the ages from like 18 up to 57 years. And it's very fascinating. In our office, it's almost like we have that, professional observational data model that we can see the difference between how my male team members react towards things and how my female members react towards the same thing. So I don't like gender equality is very, very important in order to give everybody the opportunity as humans to perform and to produce and to apply themselves, for sure. But at the same time, we cannot deny we are different. The way we look at things differently than men and women do. And it's not like, I'm trying to judge a certain gender. This is my observational data. I've been doing dentistry for 25 years. I have observational data coming from male-female patients, and I have observational data coming from male-female team members. So honestly, the best thing that I can give you is look at everybody as a human being, first and foremost. And I do hire on personality style, not on skills. I do train on skills, but when I hire for personalities, regardless what the gender is. So, and in order to lead in that model, you have to be mastering a mindset that this person that you're hiring is a human, and you got to look beyond gender, look at personality first, then train on skills.
That is a whole lesson. Thank you so much, Dr. Slava. So going over to our next question, we want to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity. So I'm asking all, making sure that you add value and we get in and get out as quickly as possible so that we do have the opportunity. So anybody else had anything else they wanted to add to that briefly? She did such a fine job covering it all on that question about whether, when it comes to balancing the woman and the man, it's really person to person. And I believe that, in my personal belief, I say we both possess masculine and feminine energy, and it will rise based on what our call to action is in the moment. And so we all can nurture and we all can be strategic, and there's no limitation. And Dr. Slava, you highlighted that very well. So the next question that we have for our panelists, and we probably want to hear this from our men, so I'm not just going to pick anyone, is how can men really support women in their role and in their leadership role in the work environment?
I love the topic, and I do feel that men accepting women for who they are, because here's what I'm hearing, and Dr. Slava mentioned this also, is that everyone is unique. See, we were taught through school, here's one test for everybody, and you have to pass it. And we're cookie cutter into society. So what I mean by that is we use the cookie cutter approach when we sit back and say whether or not someone is a leader, whether they're a follower, and every great leader has been a great follower. So you can't separate those two, but we judge when we shouldn't judge. And we judge based on appearance, based on sex and gender and things of that nature. But as men come into understanding that she's better than me at this. So I'm speaking from my experience. I'm a married man, a girl dad, and they're bosses. Like it, and they boss me. And I love it, but they're still feminine. They're sweet as could be, but they have grit. And what I've learned is me accepting that instead of these gender roles that I don't agree with at all. Most of the managers I've ever had have been women, and they've been great. So me coming into understanding that she has more than just what society has cookie cutted her to be. She has more to offer. And once we as men understand that, then that union of marriage, that union of partnership would just allow us to climb so much more. So I do believe that men are critical in this, but I love the fact that women are taking the lead more and more each day. Dr. Alisa, Deb, it's a ton of great women. And I'm enjoying the movement because it's a beautiful thing, and you all have so much to offer. And the sooner we men understand that, the better we'll be as a community and as an overall society.
I got to jump in and tag him on this one because Coach E laid it all the way out. The only thing I want to do is see if I can sprinkle a little bit of flavor on it. One of my favorite speakers in the whole wide world, God bless him, the late, great Miles Monroe. And Miles said, if you don't know the reason for a thing, if you don't know the reason why a thing exists, there's a 99.9% chance you'll somehow find yourself abusing it. I'm going to say it again. If you don't know the reason for a thing, if you don't know the reason why a thing exists, there's a 99.9% chance you'll somehow find yourself abusing it. And so I think what happens with a lot of men, because we've had such a male-dominated society for so long, the rules have been created to benefit and favor men. It is very hard for men to jump into transition mode and understand women in the workplace, women in entrepreneurship, and women's value all across the planet. Now, one thing I'll say before I land my plane and pass the mic back to the mod, I'll throw out there very, very quickly. There's a difference between a lion and a lioness. I'm going to say that again. There's a difference between a lion and a lioness. I've told people on stages across the globe that a lioness is known as one of the world's greatest hunters, or assassins, if you will. A lioness does not need a male lion to help it hunt. I've never seen a lioness say, I can't go out on the hunt because Big Daddy ain't here. I've never seen that happen, right? And the beautiful thing is the male lion understands the lioness's strength and the value she brings to the table. So there's a balance that takes place. But if I don't know your value, it's very hard for me to be inspired by it. And what I'm not inspired by, I'm typically intimidated by. Come on, somebody. Right? We got a lot of lionesses out there in this day and age that are intimidating a lot of people because they don't understand the reason for them or the value. So I think with men, that balance shifts when we get to a point where we understand better and understand the nature and the roles and the value we create moving unified together versus doing it individually. I'll pass that mic back to Dr. Alisa.
Woo, boy, listen, we are starting to fire, but I guess we're going to have to do this again because we just came to the end of the first question in the panel discussion. The essence of leadership. Can women lead authentically in her feminine or is there needed for balance in her masculine traits necessary? And you all did not fail us. Thank you so much, Dr. Kareem, Coach E, and Dr. Slava. Eloquently well done.
Part 2 of this is all about tech and beyond. Tech and beyond. This is all about unveiling the untapped potential of women in non-traditional career paths. And I gotta question that thing about tradition at this point in time, because the way the globe is set up and how things have changed so quickly, I'm not sure what traditional is at this point in time because things have shifted so much. And so I'm going to start to throw these questions out there. Feel froggy and leap out there and snatch that up if you choose to. Our panelists here, we got Ernest here, we got Evelyn here, we got Hakan here, we got Yulin here, and Simony here, and Trevor's here, and Deb is here as well, of course, with Dr. Alisa White. So the very first question I have for everyone under the sound of my voice: what barriers do you believe prevent more women from pursuing careers in non-traditional fields like the tech market and the construction? What barriers do you believe are preventing more women from pursuing careers in those industries?
Mindset.
All right. Can we go a little bit deeper with that real quick?
Well, I don't. It goes back to you can't give away what you don't have. So if you don't believe that you can, then you're not going to pursue.
Okay.
My youngest daughter is she went to school to study engineering. And so there was a very few girls that were in the engineering department. And, I've always told my girls they can do anything they wanted. For me personally, like that never appealed to me. So I think maybe it's mindset that you can do it, but also like, is there a strong desire that women want to go into those fields? And not all women, again, we're all different, but.
And that goes to the why, right? That goes back to the why. I mean, I spend a lot of time in the athletic arena. And so I think that's 15% of D1 female athletic directors in college, and it's 21.8% that are high school female athletic directors. Thank you, Title IX. So it's progression, right? It's progression, but there also has to be a why you want to do it in the first place.
Gotcha. Let me grab Coach E real quick and I'll get Hakan. Coach E, what you got?
So I've been in the tech industry for 17 years now. I taught tech at ITT Tech. I've been in corporate America with all IT jobs, and it's about 30% women that's in IT right now in tech, and actually 26.7%. Here's what I'm learning though. As I was teaching my students, my classes began to become more women. And I love that because now in tech, you're not judged whether or not your back is strong. Like Dr. Alisa said, whether or not you can lift concrete and climb on top of buildings. In tech, if you have the mind, then people respect you regardless. What I've learned with the women in tech is that they have a little more grit than the guys. They come off a lot stronger than some of the guys because a lot of them feel that they have to do that. But there's a balance in that also because we love the fact that they are feminine, that they are women. So balancing that is something that I've learned in tech, that some go a little overboard to really get their point across. But in this male-dominant world, sometimes that's required. But I love the fact that the numbers are growing in the tech field. But yeah, I wanted to add that because, again, I'm in technology. Most of my managers through my entire career have been women. And I mean, they're making nice salaries, 150 plus. So the women can go up the ladder. They can move up, but it is going to require some grit in tech because you're dealing with engineers. But I love the balance that's coming and the respect that the women get in the tech world. That's my experience.
I got you. I'm going to grab the economy real quick, but I got to respond to that real quick as well. Growing up, I was always strategic, which means that I was going to be very, very careful about the moves I made when it came to making money in career. So I wasn't going to be that dude on no assembly line. For me personally, I wasn't going to be doing no construction work. I'm way too pretty for that. You ain't about to have me with blisters and sores. So I was always moving towards call center work. But I love the idea of the tech field being such a level playing field that your ability, your strength, and your muscle doesn't make a difference. You can win, but this is strategy. Hey, Con, jump in there and get some of this action, my friend. What you got?
Yeah, no, I'm thinking on this from the opposite side. I also worked in tech for 5-6 years or something, or a little bit more. But I also worked in social work for 20 years. Yeah. And if women that in social work in Norway is like 90% female dominated, if women can do the chores that are done in social work with lifting handicapped people, with the emotional resilience that's necessary when you meet some of the toughest situations you can face. My question is, why can't they do it also in tech? Why can't they go over those barriers that we talk about, that, oh, you can't be in tech because that is so, you have to be logical and all that stupidity. That is just some preconceived notion that to me, it doesn't make sense at all. Because tech is a field where it's necessary. Of course, logic is necessary if you're a coder, for instance. You need to be really detail oriented, but you also need visions. You need to have the ability to create concepts, to go into aesthetics, to truly see all have the overhanging point of view that is necessary. And any young girl who's sitting watching this, who's thinking, I'm not sure if I can. Of course you can. Of course you can. Look at I used to be a gamer, and some of the most beautiful games I've seen were designed by ladies, by girls, by women. So to truly see that and the same goes for construction. I mean, today we have tools that can help us with just about everything. So why go into what you lack if you don't feel that you have the power? You got the brains. Use it.
I love it. I love it. So I wanna shift directions real quick, and before I do that, on a different question, I believe what Hakan said is wonderful, and one of the reasons why I think so is I've learned in life it's hard to be a thing if you can't see a thing. I'm gonna say that again. It's hard to be a thing if you can't see a thing. So for me, growing up being a man of color, it was super important for me to see successful people that look like me, right? Because it was easier for me to be successful in the field of my choosing, knowing there's other people out there that can do it. I feel the same way when it comes to some of the dynamic women I've come across in this journey that we call life. Right? Super important for them to be able to put that success out there, not from a braggadocious spot, but to inspire other women to know, hey, the good fight has started. Let's keep on pushing and keep getting dynamic results. I want to ask a different question, and this question is for anyone that wants to leap in again. Can anyone here share any examples of successful initiatives or programs that have effectively encouraged and supported women in entering and thriving in these different industries? You guys know of any initiatives or any programs that you are aware of, maybe you've gone through or you referred people to that encourage and support women that want to enter into these different types of industries? So
I'm fortunate that I've got a couple of programs with our core trainings, and one of them, we do a student-to-student mentoring program, and it's not necessarily geared strictly towards women, although we do work with private high schools that are women, are all female. But it's upperclassmen mentoring the incoming class. And so when we do this, typically it's a 60-40. So we have about 60% of those that sign up to be part of are females, are women who want to serve, who want to mentor, who want to put themselves out there. And I also have a very specific workshop that is designed learning to lead, and then leadership for ladies or leadership for women, that we specifically focus on what leadership is and what it's not, and everything that goes along with that, that's specifically designed for women in our programming.
I love it. Dr. Alisa, you gonna jump in also, or?
I want to hear from Janaea. She had something in the chat. Go ahead, Janaea.
Oh, well, I'm in tech. I didn't want to jump in because I'm not a part of this particular set of panelists, but I work in tech. I am a sales trainer. I get to train all of the salespeople all over the world for these global 500 companies. And one of the things that has really, given me a pause is when I see women that come into my training class and they're so thankful that they have a female trainer. And just like Dr. Kareem said, if you can't see it, you can't believe it for yourself, right? And so one of the things that's really important for us to do is to continue to network and to continue to give people the space to shine. So that way, not just for them to shine, but so that the people coming up can see that. And I think that's what we need more of. We just had Women's History Month, and sometimes we keep hearing about the same women over and over and over again. I'm a proponent for learning about women's history, but I'm more of a proponent about learning about women in our present. Because that's what's really going to shape the children. That's really what's going to shape the future of these industries that we're trying to bring more people in. There's a lot of people that don't even know I work in tech industry now for the last two years as a sales trainer, and I'm touching all of these big companies out there, but no one knows that because we continue to harp on, okay, what's in our history, and I'm all a proponent for that. However, we need to start highlighting some of the people that are doing things right now. And what I was saying in the chat about, some of the women's leadership programs that are out there in some of these colleges, I was fortunate enough that I was given a full scholarship to FAU in women's leadership, just based off of the struggles that I shared. As a female in corporate America, somebody saw my story and decided that they were going to pay for me to shape my experience. And it was because somebody did that allowed me to get into the role that I'm in today. So we have to remind ourselves to let's look at the people that are doing great things now. What can we do to springboard these people into visibility so that way the people can see and then the people can believe? So I just wanted to add that. Thanks, Dr. Alisa.
I ain't got to say nothing. We got the woman.
It's almost the end of Women's History Month, right? And y'all came on here just setting everything ablaze. There's something that Janae said, I think this critical. And I'm all for history and studying from the greats from yesteryear, but you guys can see I'm holding an acorn seed, right? And this seed will only grow and manifest and turn into that mighty oak tree if it's planted in the right soil, the right environment. The problem I have with history is a lot of times the soil that tries that they grew up and create their greatness in has changed dramatically from where we are right now. So I can learn from them, but a lot of the lessons may not apply in this current environment. So I agree with Janae on saying that we need more of our female champions to step up, right? So we can understand what's the secret sauce to make them successful so I can duplicate the same thing and get greater, if not equal results. So I got one last set of questions I'm going to ask before we go ahead and pass the mic to the next mod team that's going to step up. And this question again is for anybody who wants to jump in there. I would love to get folks in here that have not spoken yet because we want to know who you are. We want to know what value drives you, right?
Yeah. We have Evelyn on tech.
Yeah.
She's a tech lady. She's literally working in tech. That's what she does.
Oh, we good then.
Yes.
We can't lose this one.
Right.
All right. So,
Okay.
how can organizations and educational institutions better promote diversity and inclusion to attract and retain female talent and non-traditional career paths? How can organizations and educational institutions better promote diversity and inclusion to attract and retain female talent and non-traditional career paths?
Now, I will tell you what, now, when it comes to promoting tech and promoting women in tech and stuff like that, now, I am a Black woman from Nigeria. I live in Nigeria. So, yeah, in our own case, we face multiple layers of discrimination and a lot of things. Our tech industry is not as developed as what you have in the US. So, yeah, women in tech back here in Nigeria, we still have a whole long way to go. And yeah, talking about organizations, I will tell you that there's a whole lot of lip service I have experienced as a person when it comes to women in tech. I'll tell you this example. I was on a panel one day, and fortunately, my husband and I work in the same industry. And most of the time, okay, in that particular panel, they were like, you did this, you did that, did your husband? And I'm like, my husband, what? So now you have to prove that whatever you do, now you have to prove that whatever you do, it's actually your work, it's actually your brainchild. And as a person, I've seen this happen in so many layers. I first wrote my first Microsoft certificate, my first MCP, Microsoft Certified Professional exam in 2010. And since then, yeah, I can tell you that it's actually been a roller coaster. A lot of people asked me, at some point I had to change my name, and here's what it is. I had a first name and a last name, which were both male names, and everywhere I went, I had to tell people that BC Haruna is actually a woman, because people just look at the name and they just assume if she's doing tech and this is the name, it had to be a man. And then when I eventually put a face to that name, I have to go a long way convincing them that this face actually belongs to the name. Because when we see most of these things we do, it's just assumed that the face behind that name had to be a male face. I did designs for a couple of years, and the major thing, oh, it looks beautiful, I love this, and who is the designer? And they say, oh, the colors are feminine colors. I'm like, what? Now, what colors are feminine colors and which colors are masculine colors? I've also had this one where someone said, oh, with the way your nails look, how are we sure you can do that? How are your keyboard skills? I'm particularly interested in your keyboard skills. Your fingernails don't look like a lot. And then now, these are some of the things that you have to face as a woman. I always go with a black polish on my nails, and I don't expect any organization. I don't need to explain why I have to polish my nails. I mean, if a man goes with a polish on his nails, I think you should just give him the liberty of what he wants to do. So yeah, I can tell you one thing, that when it comes to the African context, there's a whole lot of lip service when it comes to dealing with women, particularly in tech. I can't speak from the other male-driven careers, but I can tell you particularly that when it comes to women, we have all these layers of discrimination we have to face. You have to prove to them that you can do this, you can do that, and even when they see the evidence of what you can do, you still have to go the extra mile. I personally love working with women. I love the energy women bring. I love women teams, and when the Scrum Master is a woman, it's another very interesting thing. But I'll tell you what, if you meet a female Scrum Master and she tells you the things she has to go through dealing with her team of developers, then you will know that it's not funny being a woman and being a Scrum Master. But yes, we do it.
The last thing I want to ask, and this is for everybody here, right? Just give your one thing of advice for anyone who's going to walk into a non-traditional field. For all the women out there that's saying in 2024, I'm going into a non-traditional field, and I'm going to let you guys jump in there one at a time. I'm going to ask you guys, give me one piece of sage advice that you would give to a woman making that decision. I'm going to start with Deb. What you got?
Be sure you go into something that you want to do and that you have a passion for it.
Okay. All right, Coach E, the birthday guy, what you got?
Love what you do and realize that you're unique. And as long as you put forth that energy, then great things will happen. I promise.
I got you. Dr. Don, how about you?
If you love what you do, believe in yourself, and you can achieve anything you want.
Okay. Hawk, how about you? Okay.
If you start by seeing the limits, then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If instead you see the possibilities, then you got it.
I got you. Trevor, how about you?
Yeah, I would say the key word is traditional. A lot of times when you're traditional, there's a certain perception of what's supposed to happen, who you're supposed to be. But I would say when you're becoming that next best version of yourself, when you're pursuing entrepreneurship, and no matter if you're a man or woman, a lot of times, and especially in leadership, entrepreneurship, you'll get caught crazy, you get caught weird, you get called this, you caught that. But just know you're not weird, you're not crazy, you're just first. And when you're first, you set a different standard. You raise standards, you shift perspectives, you change momentums, you change thought processes, which change into action. And you're not crazy, you're not last. Not last, if you ain't first, you're last. That's Ricky Bobby, that's a whole nother subject. You know, but you're not weird, you're not crazy, you're just first. And you have to be first because you let that standard, and then standards are supposed to rise even higher. So when you're going at it, you're just first, and you lay the standards for the rest coming after you.
All right. And Janai, how about you?
I would say the biggest thing is to close that gap of disbelief is to always study your craft. Have a growth mindset. The more you learn, the more you believe in yourself, the more that you grow in confidence. And the more you grow in confidence, you grow in confidence.
All right. Are you guys full yet? I hope not, because there's more. And so I'm going to ask, Trevor didn't get to share all that much on the last panel, so I'm going to ask Trevor to stay on. And then if somebody could help me out and make sure that I have Janaea, you stay, please. Janaya, you stay, please. And Dr. Kareem, you're staying. Dawn, you're staying. And then if we can bring in, Dr. Slavish is there. So somebody's on this. I love you all for getting this done for me. So we're going to shift gears and we're going to keep this momentum. And the question for this particular panel that is the overall umbrella, and then we can bob and weave through some of these questions if we feel like some of them are a little redundant. But bridging the gap. Bridging the gap. What are strategies? What are concepts? What are ideas that we need to talk about to achieve equality between male and female and the counterparts? How do we bring this together? And so the first question we're just going to kind of throw out there are, what do you believe that are some of the main barriers that create gender equality in the workplace? What are some of the main barriers to gender equality in the workplace, and how do we address them? What are some of those barriers?
I'd like to jump in on that because I think there's a theme here that I've heard today, and it is about seeing the person, not the gender. And so I think I just wrote an article about leadership. And it was about the ingredients, I think, that make a good leader, whether you're female or male. But it's sawubona, which means I see you, I value you, you're important to me. If we treat everybody like that, whether they're male or they're female, we value people, they feel heard, they feel wanted, they feel important. That's an amazing way to inspire people and bridge any gap. Ubuntu, which when we remember that I am because we're all connected, then we can work as a team and get things done better. And vision, having a big vision and having people, come together in a vision that broaches all kinds of gaps. So that's my formula. And I think that if we apply that to leadership and anything in life, then we win.
Right. And that brings it back to humanity, right? I value you and I see you. Dr. Kareem.
Yeah, I'll leap in and get some of that. I think a plate to go. I think also to add on what Don said, I think that we are so mired in tradition, right? A lot of times our traditional mindset, traditional thinking sets up gender roles inside the workplace and outside the workplace. One of the biggest truths that most of us don't understand, that times are literally changing in real time, right? And so I think that's it. It's the adjustment to where we want to be versus where we are. It goes back to what Don said earlier about vision. Most of us have a broken vision. One of my favorite books of all times is Napoleon Hill's Interview with the Devil. And he talks about how 90% of what you think is truth is really some well-placed, thought out lie that someone gave to you, spoon-fed you at an early age, and you believed it because you trusted the source. So my values on women come from what I was raised under my household, from my mother and my father, from schools, from churches, religious institutions and organizations, politicians that make up the whole of it, until we're willing to confront those lies and adopt our new truths based on what we know and what we learn, right? Rather than what's been spoon-fed to us. I think that's the transitional shift we need to see this world turn around and go in a totally different direction.
So how do we help confront those lies? Bringing in, again, closing that gap.
Let me jump in here because I got to kind of rush off. Greetings from the Bahamas, the place where God lives is better in the Bahamas. I'm Dr. Anastasia Lewis. Now, just to wrap up what I think, and it's pertaining to women, especially when we talk about the boundaries anywhere, any organization, any workplace, anything, I do believe that we have to tap into emotional intelligence, because a lot of times we tend to major on the minor. And so a lot of the times we make decisions based on feelings versus the actual truth and the fact, without questioning a lot of things. Women are very, very emotional. And so when it comes down to men and women in the boardroom, a lot of times we're overlooked because we're just emotional and not looking at the real deal. Secondly, is because we are violating laws. And I heard you talk about Dr. Miles Monroe, Dr. Kareem, and he was one of my mentors. One of the things he talked about is violating laws. And one of the laws that we violate is called the law of reciprocity. You get in life what you give. What you don't give, you will not get. And so if we learn those simple laws and don't violate those laws, we'll be able to foster better relationships and be able to come together and work as men and women, because all of us, we have to work together and balance everything out. That's my 10 cents.
Yeah, I'm gonna carry back off of that. That was incredible.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis, for sharing that.
Thank you. So I'm gonna piggyback off of that, and I would have to agree is that what you put into this world is what you're gonna get back. Life doesn't happen just for what you want; it happens for who you are. And so going back to your question, Deb, is what the biggest barrier is. I think the biggest barrier is when you're looking at a mirror. That's the biggest barrier, the person you see in the mirror, because the relationship you have with yourself is the direct foundation and reflection of your relationships with other people. So if I don't see value in myself and all the things that I'm awesome at, then exactly, there you go, the mirror right there. Then if I don't see value in myself, then I'm not going to see value in other people. And then again, it's going back to people, not what they look like, where they come from, where the parents are, what they're doing. It's about who they are as a person. Their soul as a human being is what is right with them. And it's focusing on, we always like to say, I'm a person of value that values people and adds value to them. And so the biggest barrier is helping find people the value that they have, because every single person has values, having God-given talents, gifts, and abilities that are only unique to them, and only them or you specifically can only exemplify to its greatest ability. So it's really finding, honoring that, and working at those strengths. When you find that in yourself, you're going to be able to find that in other people. And then it's just practicing what you do for yourself for others. Find what other people are good at, no matter who they look like, what they do, who they are, and then you help them find what they're good at. And it's about putting the right people in the right seats on the right bus.
I want to piggyback off of what Trevor said, because I think that's really important. Making sure that you have the right leader in place and not just somebody that is just given the title of leadership. That is a big barrier when it comes to corporate America, is putting the wrong people in place. And then things like this come up and then people leave, and then the cycle continues to happen. I was reading an article, and I don't exactly remember where, maybe somewhere on LinkedIn, but it said that when it comes to these type of crucial conversations about gender, about DEI, about race, about everything, that the best place to have these conversations is the workplace, because that's where all different types of people are coming together. However, the workplace is one of the scariest places to have these conversations. So how do we bridge that gap and make it comfortable? And like someone said, I think it was you, Dr. Kareem, if you don't know the value of something, you won't understand how to use it, right? We don't understand the value of the workplace and the ability where everybody is coming together, different cultures, different ethnicities, different backgrounds. And we have to be able to place the seed. And the best way to place a seed is through conversation. So we have to encourage leaders when they get into place, how to have difficult conversations and to make sure that women's leadership, women in the workplace, gender in the workplace, race in the workplace is a continued conversation, and we can't be afraid of that.
And I also don't think you can have that conversation if you don't go back to what Dr. Lewis said when she talked about the social and emotional piece, and then what Trevor said, and you fusing this all together, and what Don said and Dr. Cream says, the value, and I see you. We've got to fuse all of that together and build the relationship, because like Trevor said, and it starts with ourselves. The relationship that you have with yourself is a direct reflection of the relationship you have with other people. But you can't have these conversations because people are going to, be closed off, and the whole. It has to be. We have to build the relationship first, which means I see you, I hear you, I value you, regardless of gender. And then the conversation is not going to be in an auditorium style setting that we're speaking and talking at, but actually sitting at the table. Because I know one of the things that we all talk about is there room at your table. And I know, yes, we have the sphere of 5 people around us that we're going to continue to keep going, but it starts with the relationship. You cannot have these difficult conversations if you don't have connections. And the only way that we can build connections is to ask questions, because questions are the secret to connections.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yep. And then you got to have those difficult conversations too. A lot of people want to just completely kind of just dust on it, but you got to have, if you want to have a strong relationship, you want to have a strong foundation, you got to have those difficult conversations. You got to have them. It's inevitable. People are so scared to, cater towards people. You got to just lay the facts down, and then you got to get over yourself and just get to where you want to be and have those tough conversations with listening to everybody on their side and doing for the greater good. And that's just us.
So I want to move. Oh, go ahead, Dr. Cream. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just real quick. I've done a lot of DEI talks for organizations, and a lot of times they don't want to have that conversation because that conversation can frustrate tempers and excite short fuses. But the one thing I leave with every organization, you cannot conquer what you refuse to confront. Exactly. Both in organizations and outside organizations, that's for your personal life. You will never conquer what you refuse to confront, which means if I want to be in growth mode, I have to be willing to have the difficult conversation with the idea that I'm trying to find a positive result. I look at people as resources, and a resource is useless if it's not attached to a vision, right? With most organizations, I want to know what your vision is. Then you'll understand the resources, and the best performance out of any resource is getting past those difficult conversations that allow me to be me 100%, not just the 10% is going to show up because you ticked me off in the workplace. So I'll throw that microphone back over.
I love that. And if y'all didn't get that, let me repeat one thing that he said. Well, a sentence that he had said is that, and this goes in everything, never mind just talking about gender equality, but he said, you can never conquer what you're not willing to confront.
Facts. I would say I would avoid both of those words because they both have negative connotation. And when you already go through something in negative connotation, your outlook towards that outcome is going to be negative. So our biggest challenge or problem in life, to use those, is the fact we think we shouldn't have any problems or challenges. That's our biggest one. And so the thing about challenges or problems is that we think we shouldn't have any, but they're actually a sign of life. And none of us have been or ever will be exempt from challenges. And so they're not a problem or a challenge, it's an opportunity. And it's not happening to us, it's happening for us because of this quote unquote problem or challenge. It's an opportunity for us to attack. And on the other side of that adversity is that next best version of ourselves. So everything that comes at us is happening for us so we can grow to that next level of ourselves. So it's not a challenge, it's a problem, it's an opportunity for growth.
So for me, some of the misconceptions, I've been in the corporate world for about 28 years plus, and I'm going to speak through my experience. So some of the misconceptions is that women don't support each other, and that women, we are actually, hindering others to actually go forward. And there's some truth in it, but I've seen, especially where I am, things are changing. We are learning to support each other. We are learning to uplift each other. And as for me, in my corporate journey, because I started banking as a teller and I've risen through to where I am today, it's really been, how do I find my voice and help other women find theirs? If there is an opportunity, I'm sitting on the table, and if my voice will add to uplifting another woman, I normally do so. So really, it's about us women telling our stories, encouraging others that they can do it. And sometimes I say, throwing them in a cup of hot tea and see how they swim. And I've done it before. So we are getting better. Are we there yet? Not yet. But I think the strides that we have taken as women is getting us somewhere. Thank you. I'm praying that I'll still be available for even the other two questions. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Agatha, for sharing. We appreciate you being here.
Since I went last, I had an opportunity to write down some things and some thoughts. So it's not scripted, but it is my opinion of things. So I think some of the misconceptions about female competition include the belief that women are inherently, they compete with each other. And they compete with each other more than they compete with men. And it is more likely to undermine each one of them or our success because we are so busy competing that we're not supporting. And so I think it's very important to overcome these misconceptions and foster a stronger sense of sisterhood. I think it's essential to promote a culture of collaboration, mutual support, celebration of each other. We don't celebrate each other. We think if we give somebody accolades or somebody is doing good, then, oh, that's bad, or we're jealous that this person got a promotion, instead of being happy that our sister is growing and learning from our sister. So I think we need to start celebrating each other. And we can have, I think some of the things that we can do is have mentorships. You know, some of the programs, mentorship programs, networking, creating safe spaces for us to talk and, have dialogue. I used to do it was like focus groups. And sometimes it would be a focus group with everybody, but sometimes it was strictly for women because there are things that women want to talk about, but they need a safe space to let those things out. And so I think to foster sisterhood, we need to create some of those safe spaces for them to be vulnerable and say the things, whether it's relationship, career, family, whatever the case may be. We need to foster a safe space for us to talk. And I also said that some strategies and initiatives that have been effective in promoting collaboration and cooperation among women include affinity groups or employee resource groups specifically for women. They need leadership development programs tailored to women, peer mentoring circles, I think workshops and seminars and things like that, like we're doing in this group. This group is amazing when it comes to pulling women and men together to collaborate. But we have such groups as we're in today, we're promoting women. We're encouraging women. And I think that speaks volumes in sisterhood and bringing people together and knowing that we're here to support you, whether you're successful or unsuccessful. It is our job to cultivate an environment where we're boosting each other up and learning from each other.
We're going to explore our last content in reference to true desires and exploring what women truly want versus expectations. And so how do societal expectations impact as a women, our careers, our choices, our relationships, our personal fulfillment?
Yes, thank you very much. I'm going to take it from a different perspective. Physically, we want to be accepted for what we look like, for our size, and all of those types of things. A lot of times in the workforce or in different, even in communities, say if you're just going out, if you're the main part of the main people that are connected with you, or if they're slim, if they have a slim waist or things of that nature, or if they have long hair, they're looked at differently. If you're the minority, they're judging you. Even if you have the expertise, even if you have the knowledge, we do not want to be put in that box. We want to be given a chance to speak, but sometimes you don't because you're at the end when they're looking in their viewpoint. They're looking at the end. They're not looking at what does she know? What is she like? And how I know this, because many times I feel like because of initially I wasn't very assertive, people would be like, oh, okay, she doesn't have anything to say. How do you know? How do you know? So I do, in terms of being a health coach and physical, I like to encourage my people to not go from the outside first. Go in the inside. Make sure you are beautiful. You're the way that you want to be in the inside. Because sometimes you have these people that are beautiful according to society standards. However, they feel horrible on the inside. They have no confidence. They don't think they're beautiful. Their self-esteem is extremely low. And one of my goals is I would like women to feel good about yourself. Speak no matter what you look like, what your size is. I don't care if you've been in an accident, whatever it is. Feel good about who you are and your purpose. So I would just like to change that in terms of society, in terms of what we judge from a different point of view. Look from the inside. And you can't see the inside, but give a person a chance. If you see that person that is not saying anything, if they're in a corner, go to them and say hello. I like to look at those that most people wouldn't go to. Most people wouldn't look at. If they're in the corner, they're by themselves. I want to know what that person's thinking. What's on their mind?
Awesome.
So that's my 2 cents.
Awesome. Thank you, Charlotte. Looking inside, because at the end of the day, you can't give away what you don't have either, right? So sometimes we have to pull it out on them. So Coach Biggie, bringing it home.
There you have it, disruptors. Wasn't that phenomenal and absolutely brilliant? And so we couldn't share it all with you, but we wanted to give you some highlights to enjoy, some thoughts to ponder, some conversation to think through. So we're hoping that you were absolutely challenging your thought about feminine leadership, and your challenge as a male or female to go ahead and continue to empower women to rise. But remember, as we said, this is a human thing, and as we lift each other up, we must be able to lift each other up, literally male, female, all working together to build a beautiful place for all of us to live and raise the next generation of future leaders. So, have you wondered about all the wonderful things you heard? Yes, you should join us at Mindset Mastery 360. Yes, since you've been such a great supporter and listener of Mindset Mastery Moments, which is a brainchild of Mindset Mastery 360, you should be a part of the movement. It is free to join and become an ambassador. There's a little application on our website, www.mindsetmastery360.org. The link is in the description. Click Join Us. Join us now. It's at the top of the page and in the middle of the page, at the bottom of the page of the website, www.mindsetmastery360.org. Or even if you go to mindsetmasterymoments.com, you will still find a link to the global movement. Join us and become a part of the global revolution that's transforming lives and changing our world. Our theme is empowering minds, transforming lives, and changing our world. And we are ready to welcome you to help us with that. Well, I've got to go, but until next time, I will see you really soon back in another episode. You can check out the full replay on our YouTube channel and watch our leaders in actions. Until then, remember that everything begins with a thought. Really, how's your mindset? See you later. Bye now.